Hey everyone. This is Six Path Weeb, and I welcome each one of you to my YouTube channel. Today's fanfiction topic is Villain Naruko, Part 2. If you enjoy alternate storylines, darker character paths, and unique twists in the Naruto universe, you're in the right place. Before we begin, a quick disclaimer. The content on this channel is created for entertainment and discussion purposes only. I do not own any anime footage used in my videos. All rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Now that that's out of the way, let's dive into the story. Let's begin. Naru-chan, what am I going to do with you? Tsuru sighed for what felt like the 100th time that afternoon. Across the room, Naruko Uzumaki, bright-eyed, golden-haired, and full of energy, grinned from ear to ear. Hug me and tell me I'm awesome? She suggested cheerfully. Tsuru lightly tapped the back of Naruko's head with a folded paper. It wasn't hard at all, more like the gentle reminder a grandmother might give a mischievous grandchild. I am disappointed in you, dear, Tsuru said, though her voice held more patience than anger. After all the lessons I've given you about planning and thinking ahead. This is what you chose to do? Naruko leaned over the desk to look again at the poster spread across it. Well, it was funny, she said, unable to stop smiling. The poster showed a mysterious figure wearing a bright cape and a silly mask shaped like flames. The figure stood heroically with hands on hips while a large caption read, "The Super Silly Hero." It was clearly meant to be playful rather than serious, and the exaggerated drawing looked just enough like a certain stern Marine officer to make people chuckle. Around headquarters, the poster had quickly become the subject of lighthearted conversation. Some people laughed quietly. Others tried very hard not to laugh at all. One Marine officer in particular, Borsellino, had laughed so loudly that several nearby seagulls flew away in surprise. Tsuru pinched the bridge of her nose, though she could not quite hide the amused sparkle in her eyes. Naru-chan, the outfit. Awesome, right? Naruko interrupted. The words. I laughed the whole time I was drawing them. Tsuru sighed again. Naruko leaned forward with a hopeful grin. Come on, Tsuru-ba. You liked it a little, didn't you? For a moment Tsuru tried to keep her serious expression. Then the corner of her mouth twitched. Perhaps. A little. Aha! Naruko pointed triumphantly. However, Tsuru continued calmly, causing a stir around headquarters is not always the wisest idea. Naruko rubbed the back of her head sheepishly. Well. It was supposed to be a present. A present? Naruko nodded enthusiastically. Your birthday. I wanted to make something special. Tsuru folded her arms. You would do well not to announce that number so loudly. Aye, madam. Naruko saluted dramatically. Despite herself, Tsuru chuckled. Still, she studied the girl carefully. Naruko might look like a playful 10-year-old, but there was often a thoughtful seriousness behind her bright blue eyes. Naru-chan, Tsuru said more gently, you have been traveling and helping people in many places lately. I worry that you push yourself too much. What is it you truly hope to do? Naruko stepped behind Tsuru's chair and wrapped her arms around the older woman in a warm hug. I just want the world to be kinder, she said simply. Tsuru blinked. Naruko continued, resting her chin on Tsuru's shoulder. I've seen places where people forget how to care about each other. Sometimes they think being powerful means they're better than everyone else. But that's not true. Tsuru listened quietly. So I try to remind people, Naruko said. Sometimes with jokes. Sometimes by helping someone who needs it. Even small things can make the world brighter. Tsuru placed a hand over Naruko's. You speak like someone much older than 10. Naruko laughed nervously. Maybe I just think a lot. After a moment, Tsuru added with a knowing smile, I also heard you help 3 girls who were very lost and frightened during your travels. Naruko's face turned pink. You really do know everything, don't you, Tsuru-ba? I try. Naruko looked out the window for a moment. Sunlight sparkled on the distant sea. They were far from home, she said softly. Anyone would help if they saw someone that sad. And you made sure they could find their way back safely. Naruko shrugged, though her smile returned. It felt like the right thing to do. Tsuru nodded with quiet pride. You have a big heart, Naru-chan. Before Naruko could respond, Tsuru added teasingly, though I have noticed you seem especially eager to help girls your age. Naruko nearly tripped over the chair. Tsuru-ba. Tsuru laughed warmly. Oh my, it seems even our brave young hero can become flustered. I'm only 10. Naruko protested. Yes, yes, Tsuru said with a gentle wave of her hand. But one day you will grow up, and I suspect you will make many friends along the way. Naruko folded her arms, pretending to be serious. Well, for now I'm focusing on being an awesome hero. A hero who draws silly posters? Exactly. Tsuru shook her head fondly. Naruko stepped beside her and began gently massaging Tsuru's shoulders. You think too much sometimes, Tsuru-ba, Naruko said kindly. Everything is okay right now. We're here, we're safe, and there are lots of good people in the world. Tsuru relaxed slightly. Yes, she said softly. Perhaps you are right. After a moment she glanced back at the poster on the desk. You know, she admitted, the cape is rather creative. Naruko's grin returned instantly. I knew you liked it. Well, if you cut down on the times you go to have fun with those pirates, I might choose to forget some things. A devious gleam appeared in the great tactician's eyes, signaling that she was in bargaining mode. Just how do you know all this? Do you somehow watch me from hundreds of miles away or something? Is it Vegapunk? Did he put some sort of device on me that lets you know where I am? Naru-chan, language. I'm going to be a Marine. No, you're not. Okay. I will become a Marine. And until you do become one, you rinse your mouth every day, twice. I'm 10, Tsuru-ba, not silly. I do not understand your fascination with those barbaric brutes. But Shanks is fun though. I mean, come on. He's been trying to get me into a drinking. I seem to recall you making frequent visits to the East Blue. Maybe I should. Okay. I won't go have fun with them as much. I promise. Naruko was on the floor the next moment, kneeling dramatically. Please just tell me how you know all this. Tsuru chuckled merrily after getting her way. That's a secret. Ah. Now, Naru-chan, I've kept my eyes closed on certain matters, but it doesn't mean I'm unaware. Cousin and the others don't know it yet, but Garp mentioned to me that there was a new bookshop the last time he went to Fuchsia village. It belongs to a woman who was found on the shore one day. Middle-aged, slim, with white glasses and short hair. You know that old fool and his blabbering mouth. The next thing you know, he could be telling everyone about it. I've warned him to stay quiet for now. But as I have said from the start, you must be more careful. Tsuru-ba. Naruko gave a grateful smile as she stood back up. I don't know what I would do without you. Sengoku is keeping an eye on you now that you took part in the destruction of Marie Joyce. You were lucky that the person responsible for causing trouble there was someone he did not particularly like. Ah, so that was the reason why. Tsuru gently pulled Naruko onto her lap just like she used to 5 years ago. Her voice grew serious. It is time, Naru-chan, for you to become an official Marine. That is the only way people will stop suspecting your actions. Go to Sengoku and tell him your motives. Tell him that I trust you under either cousin or Borsellino. I have already spoken to them, and they agree. How you managed to make those two fond of you, I have no idea. But since they do like you, we will use it to our advantage. Yes, ma'am. Naruko's cheeky grin returned as she hugged Tsuru. You're right. It is time. I guess I'll have to stop having so much fun then, huh? Maybe I'll just keep the pranks inside headquarters. Oh no you don't. If I find out one more time that you swapped the sugar and the salt in the kitchen, I will. But it's so funny. I mean, how often can they fall for that? You would think the cooks would notice something so simple. And with that, the day passed by peacefully. It was just another day in the adventurous life of Uzumaki Naruko. X. Uzumaki. Smoker. Get back here right now, roared the officer in charge of the training school. No way. I'm not going back to suffer through more lessons. The white-haired teenager grumbled as he ran faster. And why are you following me? Eh? Me? Naruko blinked innocently as she caught up with him. The 12-year-old blonde scratched the back of her head. I got bored of the lessons and thought I should run too. Hee hee. She sighed dramatically. But wow, I didn't think this school thing would take so long. That's Tsuru-ba. I knew something was suspicious when she had that look in her eyes. Only you would dare call the great tactician Tsuru-ba, Smoker muttered as they both leapt over a fence and landed on the basketball court. Anyone else would be too scared. They stopped for a moment to catch their breath. You're pretty fast, Smoker admitted while panting. Not many people can keep up with me. Ha ha, this is nothing, Naruko said brightly. Cousin and Borsellino would laugh if I couldn't even do this. Would you stop mentioning admirals like they're your friends? Smoker groaned. It's weird. Then he suddenly pointed at her. And don't think you're off the hook. I blame you for getting us into this situation. What? What did I do? Naruko asked with wide innocent eyes. Don't give me that look. You're not fooling anyone. Naruko sniffed loudly and rubbed her eyes. Aw. Smoker-san is bullying me. Wah. Oh, for goodness sake, can you just stop? Smoker groaned. It was clear Naruko was up to her usual tricks again. Since she would never prank her beloved Tsuruba, she found other people to tease, especially Smoker, who always reacted the funniest. Smoker's face turned red. I'm going to. Hey. That's mean, Naruko interrupted. I'm just a good little girl. Suddenly Naruko gasped dramatically. Wah. Hina-ne-chan. Smoker-san is being so mean to me. Before Smoker even realized what happened, Naruko had already dashed across the court and hugged a tall young woman standing nearby. How did you, what? Smoker stared in confusion. Hina looked down at the blonde girl in her arms and then at Smoker with a disapproving gaze. Smoker-kun, she said firmly. Why do you keep bullying Naruko-chan? I'm not bullying her. She's tricking you. Smoker protested. Look at her face. Naruko quickly made the saddest expression she could manage. Hina is disappointed, Hina said calmly. Smoker slapped his hand over his face. Oh no. Not this again. You should watch your language, Smoker-kun, Hina continued. Hina is very concerned. Despite her serious tone, Naruko could see the tiny smile hiding at the corner of Hina's lips. This was Naruko's favorite moment. Watching Hina scold Smoker. Hina was only 17 but already one of the academy's best students. She had impressive abilities and was admired by many people. Yet for some reason, she often found herself involved with the academy's two most famous troublemakers, Smoker and Naruko. Naruko was especially well known because she had entered the academy at only 10 years old under the recommendation of Vice Admiral Tsuru. That alone surprised everyone. Most students were at least 15 before joining. Of course, many older students had challenged her to competitions when she first arrived. They couldn't believe such a young girl could keep up with them. But Naruko always surprised them. She moved quickly, thought creatively, and had an energy that never seemed to run out. Even when Hina once practiced against her during training, Naruko managed to dodge every move with playful ease. Yet despite her incredible talent, Naruko still had one very normal problem. She was only 10 years old. At the end of long training days, she often became very tired. Her body still needed time to grow stronger. That was actually why Tsuru insisted she attend the academy. Cousin tended to teach in a relaxed way, and Borsellino focused mostly on speed. Neither of them realized that Naruko needed proper balance in her training. One afternoon, Cousin and Borsellino were waiting for Naruko at their usual training spot. But she never arrived. Curious, they went to Tsuru's office to find her. Inside, they discovered Naruko resting in bed with a high fever while Tsuru carefully looked after her. Her muscles were sore from pushing herself too hard. The two admirals exchanged worried looks. For the first time, they realized something important. Even if Naruko was bright, brave, and full of endless determination, she was still a growing girl who needed rest, care, and people looking out for her. And from that day forward, they made sure Naruko trained not only to become strong, but also to stay healthy, happy, and ready for many more adventures ahead. Naruko had always been strong for her age. Everyone at the academy knew it. She trained harder than anyone else, practiced longer than anyone else, and somehow still found the energy to smile at the end of the day. But there was something the adults slowly began to realize. No matter how talented she was, Naruko was still just a child. That understanding changed the way they treated her. At first, her teachers pushed her very hard. They wanted to help her reach her full potential as quickly as possible. Yet after some time, Tsuru began to see that rushing Naruko forward would not help her grow. Naruko's mind was already sharp and focused. What she truly needed was time for her body to grow strong enough to match it. So the training slowed down. Instead of endless lessons and constant drills, Naruko was allowed to practice steadily and naturally. She herself estimated that by the time she reached her late 20s, she would be able to reach the incredible level she dreamed of. What impressed Hina the most, though Smoker would only admit it with a grumble, was how hard Naruko worked even without anyone asking her to. Every night, after the academy lights went out and everyone else had gone to sleep, Naruko would quietly sneak outside to train beneath the stars. Her dedication was astonishing. By the age of 12, Naruko stood 5 feet 4 inches tall. She had grown strong and athletic from all her training. She was nearly as tall as Hina, who was 5 years older and already considered quite tall herself. Rumors spread throughout the academy that Naruko had become the best student at the Rakushiki techniques. Hina knew those rumors were true. She had asked Naruko many times how she managed to learn so quickly. Naruko always gave the same simple answer. Hard work. Of course, Naruko never explained what she was really thinking. To her, the technique called Saru, where a person stomped the ground rapidly to move at high speed, felt almost like ordinary running. After learning far faster movement skills in the past, this technique seemed simple. Tech-I, which hardened the body like iron, made Naruko quietly laugh during practice. She had once spent months learning how to control every muscle in her body, so the concept felt familiar. Geppu, which allowed someone to step on the air itself, was actually a lot of fun. Kami-e, the art of moving like paper to avoid attacks, reminded her of simple dodging exercises. Shigan, the finger-based strike technique, was one she genuinely enjoyed practicing. And Rankyaku, which sent powerful air waves with kicks, reminded her of strong martial artists she had admired long ago. Still, Naruko never complained. Well, not out loud. The truth was that she sometimes looked bored during class. Instead of paying attention, she would daydream or stare out the window. That behavior worried Hina. Hina believed that arrogance was dangerous, and she did not want Naruko to grow into someone careless with her talents. One evening, she decided to find out what Naruko was doing after everyone else had gone to sleep. What she discovered shocked her. Naruko was outside on the quiet training grounds. Balancing on the tip of a kunai planted in the ground, Naruko was doing one-finger push-ups. Hina stared in complete disbelief. Who trained like that? Apparently, Naruko did. From that night on, Hina never questioned Naruko's behavior in class again. One bright afternoon, Naruko, Smoker, and Hina were relaxing outside the academy building. "Oi! You brats over there!" a loud voice suddenly shouted. "Escaping from class again? And you even dragged poor Hina along? Get over here right now." Naruko and Smoker froze. They knew that voice. Smoker quickly turned into a cloud of smoke and tried to slip away. Not so fast. 5 seconds later, he was dragged back by their teacher, Belmare. "Who were you calling crazy earlier?" Belmare demanded with crossed arms. "Detention." "Belmare-sensei." Smoker protested. Hina calmly raised a hand and gently wrapped Smoker's mouth with her ability so he could not interrupt. "Umph." He protested. "I believe that means he is unhappy," Hina said politely. Naruko tried not to laugh. Belmare sighed and shook her head. "Fine. Naruko, you and Hina go back to class. I'll deal with this troublemaker." "Yes, sensei." Naruko replied quickly. She grabbed Hina's hand and hurried away. Everyone at the academy knew about Belmare's fiery temper. Though she had once been a troublesome student herself, she had grown into a respected Marine captain at the young age of 23. But the students still feared her scoldings. Moments later, Smoker's loud complaints echoed from near the academy fountain. Naruko and Hina exchanged glances. "Naruko-chan," Hina said thoughtfully, "that was a little mischievous." Naruko grinned. "Thank you." After classes ended that day, Naruko stretched happily. "Want to come over for dinner?" she asked. "Hina would like that very much," Hina replied. "Are you cooking?" "Of course. My ramen is amazing. Maybe someday I'll even open my own ramen shop." "Hina would like miso ramen tonight." "Then miso ramen it is." Naruko happily planned the meal as they walked home together. "Maybe we should invite Belmare-sensei too," Naruko added with a playful smile. Tsuruba could give her one of her long lectures. Hina paused for a moment. "Naruko-chan," she said slowly, "that is extremely mischievous." Naruko laughed. "Do you want extra noodles?" Hina feels very lucky today. Years passed, and Naruko continued to grow. At 17, she had already become a rear admiral in the Marines, an achievement that surprised almost everyone, including Naruko herself. One afternoon, she sat in a grand hallway, lazily spinning her Marine cap on one finger. "Being responsible is such a drag," she muttered. Beside her stood a slim blonde assistant wearing glasses. "Rear Admiral Naruko-sama," the girl said politely, "important duties are rarely exciting." Naruko sighed dramatically. Why did they promote me so quickly? She stretched her arms and leaned back in her chair. Protecting visiting kings during a big meeting was certainly important, but the peaceful hallways of the city felt incredibly quiet. Naruko preferred adventure. Still, she knew she had a responsibility now. Even if the job sometimes felt boring. The blonde assistant adjusted her glasses. "Rear Admiral Naruko-sama," she said calmly, "you appear to be overthinking again." Naruko blinked. "Maybe a little." Then she smiled. "Well, when this is over, I'm making ramen for everyone." The assistant blinked in surprise. Naruko stood up, stretching happily. Even as a rear admiral, some things never changed. Naruko still trained hard. Naruko still helped her friends. And Naruko still believed that a warm bowl of ramen could make any day brighter. The friendly match between Naruko and the wandering swordsman Mihawk ended in a draw. The sun was setting, painting the sky with gentle shades of orange and purple as the two travelers sat together outside a small cafe on a quiet island. Instead of continuing their contest, they decided to relax with warm tea and fruit juice while talking about their journeys. Naruko could talk to almost anyone, and before long she and Mihawk were laughing about all the strange places they had visited. They even turned it into a little game to see who could finish their drinks the fastest. Naruko, with her boundless energy, never seemed to tire, while Mihawk soon grew sleepy from the long day. A group of wandering travelers passed by and tried to challenge Mihawk to another contest of skill. Naruko quickly stepped in with a cheerful smile and suggested a different activity instead. Soon everyone was sharing stories, and the evening ended peacefully. The next morning Mihawk woke up in a guest room at the small inn, refreshed and ready to continue his travels. Beside the bed was a neatly written note from Naruko explaining where he could find her if he ever wished to meet again. A few days later, Mihawk visited the marine headquarters and spoke with Sengoku about working together to keep the seas safe. In time, this cooperation would become known as the Seven Warlords of the Sea. Naruko met many interesting people during her adventures. One of the most remarkable was the towering pirate Captain Edward Newgate, whom everyone called Whitebeard. He was incredibly tall and strong, and Naruko often wondered aloud if he might secretly be part giant. Whitebeard would simply laugh in his deep voice whenever she asked. Despite his enormous size, he was kind to his crew and treated them like family. Naruko respected that very much. Naruko also met the cheerful Captain Shanks. Shanks loved celebrations and music, and whenever Naruko visited his ship, the crew would gather to sing songs and tell jokes. Shanks had a habit of laughing so hard that he could barely stand up, which always made the entire crew laugh even more. Another person who surprised Naruko was Bartholomew Kuma. At first he seemed very quiet and serious, but once Naruko got to know him, she realized he was thoughtful and gentle. He spoke softly and enjoyed discussing books, inventions, and the mysteries of the world. One day Kuma asked Naruko to accompany him to meet the brilliant scientist Dr. Vegapunk. Naruko expected a normal visit, but the conversation quickly turned to an ambitious project that Vegapunk had been working on. "Are you truly certain about this idea?" Naruko asked, tilting her head with concern. "Yes," Kuma replied calmly. "It is something I have chosen for the future." Dr. Vegapunk adjusted his glasses and nodded thoughtfully. "It is a fascinating plan. With your permission, we could learn many things." Naruko crossed her arms and sighed. "You two talk about huge decisions like you're discussing the weather. I'm still trying to keep up." Kuma gave a rare, gentle smile. "Your honesty is refreshing, Naruko." "Well, I'm still not sure I understand everything," she said with a small laugh. "But I trust you." From that day forward, Naruko made sure to visit Kuma often. She was curious about his ideas and enjoyed their long conversations. Even when their discussions became complicated, Naruko's cheerful spirit always brought warmth to the room. Naruko's relationship with the Marine admirals also continued to grow. She enjoyed sparring with Cousin and Borsellino, who often teased her for her endless energy. They respected her determination and watched with interest as her abilities improved year after year. Naruko herself was fascinated by a mysterious power known as haki. It seemed to be connected to a person's spirit and determination. The more she practiced, the more she felt as if she were learning to listen to the quiet strength inside her heart. Tsuru once explained that Naruko possessed a rare form called Hoshoku haki, a power linked to strong will. Naruko scratched her head when she heard that. "So it's like believing in yourself really, really hard?" she asked. Tsuru smiled patiently. "That is one way to think about it." Naruko trained in many skills, martial techniques, clever strategies, and unusual abilities she had learned during her travels. Yet despite all of her training, she sometimes felt a little bored. "I wish something exciting would happen," she said one afternoon while watching the ocean waves roll by. Her friends laughed when they heard that. With Naruko around, something exciting always seemed to happen sooner or later. Every year Naruko also made quiet visits to a peaceful village called Fuusha Village. There she checked on an old friend named Olivia and shared news about Olivia's daughter, Robin. Naruko had watched Robin grow into a clever and thoughtful young scholar who loved learning about history and ancient languages. "The sea is full of surprises," Naruko once told Robin kindly. "If you stay curious and brave, you'll discover wonderful things." Robin smiled at those words and continued studying with even greater enthusiasm. As Naruko sailed from island to island, meeting new friends and learning new skills, she never stopped believing that the world was full of possibilities. Every sunrise over the ocean reminded her that another adventure, and another story, was waiting just beyond the horizon. Last she heard, Robin was hiding somewhere in Alabasta, quietly working under the Shichibukai crocodile. With Ishtar helping her, Naruko wasn't too worried. Robin was clever and strong in her own way, and she had learned well how to take care of herself. At first, Olivia had been concerned when it was announced that the newly reformed Cipher Paul 9 had been sent to track Robin down. But Naruko had quickly reassured her mother. "I'm the one in charge of CP9, she had said with a cheerful grin. "We're not hunting Robin, we're helping her whenever we can." Robin would always smile when she found the small secret messages Naruko left for her. Those messages reminded her that the girl who had once saved her life had never forgotten about her. Ishtar liked to tease Robin, saying she had fallen in love. Robin would roll her eyes at the teasing, though after 10 years she had become quite skilled at teasing back. Once she jokingly reminded Ishtar of a story about Gilgamesh that the goddess clearly wished everyone would forget. Ishtar had gritted her teeth in embarrassment, wondering why she had ever shared that story. Robin's life still had its share of sadness. She was always moving from place to place, staying one step ahead of the world government. Many pirates called her the devil child, and people often misunderstood her. But she kept going. She studied, learned, and grew stronger every day, hoping to protect the people she cared about, just like Naruko had taught her. Meanwhile, Naruko had been quite busy herself. One day she told Fleet Admiral Sengoku that she was bored and wanted something interesting to do. Sengoku considered giving her a ship to patrol the seas, but that idea quickly worried him. Naruko had far too many pirate friends for that to be a good idea. Instead, she suggested rebuilding Cipher Paul 9, and Sengoku agreed. So Naruko traveled to the special training island where young agents of Cipher Paul learned their skills. That was where she met the people who would become her team. The first person who caught her attention was Khalifa. While everyone else was practicing punches and kicks, Khalifa was sitting quietly and reading a book. Naruko scratched her head. "That's different," she said. Khalifa later became Naruko's secretary, though Naruko still wasn't quite sure why she needed one. The idea had come from Tsuru, a wise and kind marine officer whom Naruko respected greatly. Naruko trusted her completely, so she never questioned it. Another member Naruko met was Rob Lucy. Lucy was extremely serious and believed that strength was the most important thing in the world. Naruko decided the best way to help him grow was through a very intense training session. Afterward, Lucy learned something important. "Being strong is great," Naruko told him kindly, "but being humble helps you become even stronger." She also shared a funny little thought with him. "First people say there's no such thing as perfection," she said, laughing, "and then they say practice makes perfect. I wish they'd make up their minds." Lucy thought about those words often. They reminded him that everyone could always improve. Naruko also recruited several other unique teammates. There was Jabra, who loved telling silly stories and sometimes stretched the truth just for fun. Bluno was quiet and serious, though Naruko couldn't help giggling at his unusual hairstyle. Kaku was younger than many of the others but very talented with swords. Naruko joked that she trusted him partly because of his very long and memorable nose. Kaku proudly repeated that story for years. Then there were the two most unusual members, Fukuro and Kumadori. Fukuro had a zipper across his mouth and reminded Naruko of a cheerful owl. Kumadori loved dramatic speeches and acted like he was performing on a theater stage at all times. Naruko sometimes had to gently remind him to keep things simple during training. Together, the 7 agents formed the new Cipher Paul 9. They trained hard, worked together, and slowly became one of the strongest teams in the world government. Even more importantly, they learned to trust one another. One day, while standing in a large hall at Marie Joy's, Naruko found herself thinking about those early days. Naruko-sama, is something wrong? Khalifa asked. Huh? Oh. Naruko blinked and smiled. I was just remembering the first time I met all of you. Khalifa's expression softened. Those were interesting times. Just then, a marine officer hurried over. Uzumaki-sama. The meeting between the kings has ended. We will escort them back to their ships shortly. Naruko nodded. All right. Everyone stay alert. Yes, ma'am. Naruko turned to Khalifa with a playful grin and held out her hand. Well then, Khalifa-chan, shall we go? Khalifa walked right past her. That's workplace harassment, she said calmly. Naruko sighed dramatically. You didn't have to say it like that. A few minutes later, a loud voice echoed through the hallway. You silly girl. Watch where you're going. Naruko and Khalifa turned to see a small blue-haired girl sitting on the floor. Her cheek was red where someone had struck her. Standing nearby was a short man wearing a very strange outfit. That's King Waipal of Drum Kingdom, Khalifa whispered. Naruko frowned. The little girl slowly stood up, tears in her eyes, but she bowed politely. I'm very sorry, she said bravely. I wasn't watching where I was going. Naruko admired her courage. Just as Waipal raised his hand again, Naruko calmly stepped forward. Waipal-san, she said quietly, I think that's enough. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was firm. Khalifa stepped beside her and adjusted her glasses. The guards nearby quickly realized it would be wiser to leave peacefully. Soon the hallway was quiet again. Naruko knelt down beside the little girl. You were very brave, she said kindly. You should be proud. The girl sniffled but smiled. Thank you for helping me. Naruko gently placed her hand near the girl's cheek. A soft green glow appeared, and the soreness quickly faded. The girl's eyes grew wide with amazement. It doesn't hurt anymore. Khalifa chuckled softly. You're quite a remarkable princess. The girl puffed out her cheeks proudly. I'm 6 years old. She held up 6 fingers to prove it. Naruko laughed warmly. Soon the girl's guards came running down the hallway. Vivi-sama. There you are. The girl waved happily. Before leaving, she turned back. What's your name? Naruko smiled. My name is Naruko Uzumaki. Your name is funny, Vivi giggled. But you have to visit Alabasta someday. Naruko nodded. I promise. With that, Vivi ran off with her guards, waving goodbye. Naruko watched her go with a thoughtful smile. Well, she said to Khalifa, looks like we'll be visiting Alabasta soon. Khalifa calmly opened her notebook. Understood. I'll add it to the schedule. Oh, thank goodness, Vivi-sama, where have you been? Agaram hurried toward the young princess, brushing the dust from her dress and checking her arms and shoulders with great concern. Pell stood nearby, letting out a long breath of relief. I heard you ran into that unpleasant man Waipal just now. Are you hurt anywhere? Agaram asked. Vivi nodded slightly. Yeah. That bad man pushed me. What? That boss. But it's okay, Vivi said quickly, smiling. My new friend healed it for me. Your new friend? Agaram blinked in confusion. Yeah. Her name is Uzumaki Naruko. Funny name, huh? Uzu, wait a minute. Agaram slowly turned toward Pell. The two exchanged nervous glances. Did she have bright yellow hair? Yep. Was she wearing a blue and white coat? Yep. And? Was there a tall girl with glasses walking with her? Yeah. Khalifa Ne-chan was really nice to me too. Agaram straightened in alarm. Oh dear. I must report this to the king immediately. Nee. Vivi tugged at his sleeve. Can we invite them to Alabasta? I want to see them again. You want to invite them too? Of course you can, Vivi. Cobra-sama, Pell exclaimed. King Cobra had quietly arrived and now knelt to give his daughter a warm hug. Papa. I was a good girl today. I didn't cause any trouble for Alabasta. I know, Cobra said gently. I saw everything. You were very brave, Vivi. Vivi's eyes sparkled. Papa, when can we invite Naruko Ne-chan and Khalifa Ne-chan to our home? Agaram looked nearly faint. Cobra-sama, surely you cannot be serious. The king chuckled softly. How does next month sound? Yay. I love Papa.
I will begin preparing immediately, Igaram said, still looking overwhelmed.
Far away, In a quiet seaside town, a small transponder snail rang loudly. Buruburu buruburu. Buruburu buruburu. Khalifa picked it up and adjusted her glasses. Yes? Yes, this is she. A message for Naruko-sama? I see. I will pass it along. Naruko looked up from the window where she had been watching the ocean waves sparkle in the sunlight. What is it, Khalifa? It's from Captain Hina. Oh. Hina-chan. What did she say? Khalifa closed the snail and turned to her. She said Belmare-san needs help at the village. The crops were damaged by a strong storm, and everyone is working hard to fix things. Naruko's bright blue eyes widened. Belmare-san? Oh no. She always helps everyone else. If she's asking for help, it must be important. Naruko jumped to her feet with cheerful determination. Khalifa. Let's go. Khalifa smiled faintly. I thought you might say that. Moments later, the two set off along the sunny road, carrying baskets of supplies and seeds they had gathered for the village. When they arrived, they found Belmare standing in a field with several children, patiently replanting small seedlings. Naruko. Belmare called, surprised. Naruko waved enthusiastically. Belmare-san. We brought help. The children gathered around as Naruko knelt in the soil, happily planting new seeds beside them. Gardening teamwork, she declared with a grin. Soon the whole field was filled with laughter. Khalifa carefully organized tools while Belmare showed the children how to water the new plants. By sunset, the once damaged field looked fresh and hopeful again. Belmare placed her hands on her hips proudly. See? When everyone works together, wonderful things can grow. Naruko stretched and smiled at the golden sky. And next month, she said thoughtfully, we might even visit a desert kingdom called Alabasta. I made a new friend there. The children leaned closer, eager to hear the story. Naruko began telling them about a brave princess named Vivi, and how sometimes the best adventures start simply by helping someone. The warm breeze carried their laughter across the fields as the newly planted garden rested quietly under the evening stars. Dear YouTube family. That's all for now. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps this journey going. Until the next video, stay curious and keep exploring. Regards. 6 Path Weeb.